Hey there, I'm Tracy Rigdon, and this is the Contrast Project Lounge podcast. Often random, but always relevant, always real, and practically nothing is off limits. This podcast is for you. Are you ready for this? Let's do it. Back to the podcast, friends. I tell you what, I am so excited about this afternoon. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, and YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and smash all those subscribe buttons. My very special guest today, Mary Joan Hinson. Dr. Hinson, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Tracy. How are you?
I can't complain. You know, hey, we both of us live in North Florida, and I got to tell you, I was out there grounding in my backyard today, and the weather is fantastic.
Beautiful day. We're very fortunate.
Yeah, until the winds and the rain start coming.
Yeah, well, today, in 5 minutes, it may change. That's okay.
Well, I was just talking, you're right. I was just talking to somebody this morning, and I told him, I said, you know, it's just, and you've heard this before, if you don't like the weather in Florida, just wait about 3 minutes.
Yeah, it'll change.
So let's tell our friends, fans, and followers here, Mary, you have been an instructor, an educator, author, artist in the North Florida area for some time. And I got to tell you, guys, if you're listening to this, this lady's art is impressive.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I was at Florida State College at Jacksonville from 95 to 2020 and resigned in 2020 just to be an artist. I taught drawing, painting, design, some art history. I have undergraduate degrees in studio art painting and art history and a PhD in philosophy. When I started school, I started teaching at the college. I came from a background, a very fortunate one, of being able to study in Europe and up and down the East Coast, and take from many, many amazing instructors, and was able to travel fairly extensively. I think in my mind it was extensive anyway, and learn a lot about art forms and learn to truly appreciate the masters in front of their work, which is nice. It was a good day when I could go to the Uffizi and just wander around, and I would do my workout and run past the Uffizi and through the Palazzo Vecchio and over the Ponte Vecchio. And those were my early days, and I miss those terribly. But I've been very fortunate in my life to have excellent teachers coming up and, just learning from the best.
That's amazing. And let me ask you too, what drew you to going into academics after learning your craft abroad and learning from, some of the best of the best? And, how did your role as a professor, of fine arts and humanities and so forth, shape your approach to the art that you currently create?
Wow, that a great question. Growing up with very good teachers, I think I learned to critique my own work, and I always wanted to share my knowledge. I always wanted to help everybody in my classes, both in college at the university and in my own classes that I taught. I just want everybody to be better. I want you to be great. That's a true desire of mine, for you to reach your true potential. And I was drawn to academia because it seemed to me that they were all really smart, and I wanted to be involved with that. And they were all driven, and they were good people that truly cared about their field, their art, and passing that knowledge on to others. And that's important to me, for everybody to reach their full potential.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It always takes a mentor. It really does. I know there are some instances of people that, have just been, what they say, quote, naturals. But it always
Hmm.
helps to have, a mentor, someone that has a grasp of artistic history and things like that. And I wanted to ask you, in 2005, okay, you earned the PhD, right? And what was your?
Did.
I would like to ask you what was your thesis on?
What was my PhD in? Well, it's
Yeah,
kind
and
of a
and
funny story.
how did it
I
contribute to your evolution as an artist and an educator?
well, it's kind of a funny story. Uh, the Capella University with the University of Wisconsin came to FSCJ and did a talk on you can get your PhD, and I just went to the talk. I think this was on a Thursday, and I said, well, this sounds really interesting. I think I'll do it. And they said, well, the term really starts on Monday, but you need to wait and start the next term. I said, no, I'm going to start on Monday. I'll start Monday. And so then they said, well, you can't get a PhD in philosophy. You have no undergraduate classes. I said, sure, I can. I can get my PhD. It doesn't say anywhere that I can't. And so I signed up for 3 classes. The first day I cried because I hadn't written anything in years. But then, after I said, okay, straighten up, you better do your work. You better get your work done. So I was teaching full time. I was teaching part time at another institution, and I was attending school to get my PhD full time. So I was a little busy, but nonetheless, I
To say
did
the
it.
least.
Gosh, I prevailed. That's why people say, well, I can't do this. I'm like, sure you can. Depends on how badly you want it. And so I stuck with it, and they said you had to take 2 years to get it. And I said, I'll take 2 years. So to the day, I took 2 years. I did my dissertation oddly on operant conditioning because I truly believe that we're all, and people are gonna scowl at me when I say we're all animals, and we can you can teach using operant conditioning, which is teaching to do an operation basically. And I said people are driven by food. So I did some experiments that said if I serve food for these meetings, people will be there, not only show up, but they'll be on time. And sure enough, I was amazed at how well it worked because when I stopped serving food, people would come in late or they would have an excuse on why not to come. And I'm like, oh my gosh, simple as they would get there on time to get a candy bar. And so that was interesting. I did a lot of studies on evolutionary psychology and different things that I was just very interested in as an academic. And I feel like I am an academic and a lifelong learner. I love to learn. I'm doing Duolingo, I think it's called now, where you learn different languages. And I always want to learn. I'm always learning. I'm a very inquisitive person. If I don't know how to do it, I'm going to figure it out. And the easiest way to get me to do something is tell me I can't. So,
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, I'm a Leo, and sometimes we can be stubborn, and I can totally relate to that statement. Tell us we can't do it.
mm-hmm. Well, and I'm an Aries, so I am an Aries to the core. So we're
Well,
unapologetically an Aries.
so I want to talk about before we go on to some other meaty subjects that I know we've talked about. Your art, your some of your stuff, you have called corporate art,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of your work is corporate art. and a lot of your work is absolutely stunning. I got to tell you, I would take one of your corporate art pieces and hang it up over my mantle.
Well, I appreciate that. We can certainly make that happen. But I found it. I didn't realize, I remember when I went to school, my father always used to say, "Why do you have to paint so big?" Because I would go and I would stretch a canvas that was bigger than I was, and I would just paint. And I've just always liked painting largely. Love painting with a lot of color. I
Hmm.
just love color. I don't, and my students know this, I don't, very rarely, I know what you see behind you is black and white, which is one of the only times I even use the tube of black paint.
I was gonna say that
Never
your
use black.
stuff
Never, except for the
your stuff is very
black and white.
colorful. Your stuff is very colorful.
Yes, and I love that. Even my big murals I paint with a lot of color, and everybody says, "Well, that's black." I'm like, "Not, it's not black. It's dark blue or it's dark violet." But I've always painted, and I love to paint. I love color, so that's just from whence I came.
Well, when I look at some of those, and I see behind you the black and white, uh, the swirl, and I noticed that you use a lot of swirls and shapes in your canvases, and they are bright colors, and they're really striking to me. To me, they're really striking. They seem
Thank
to have
you.
they have a
Thank
lot of
you.
depth, and uh, they're absolutely gorgeous, in my opinion.
Me too, but that's we have the right opinion. What do you want to say? Well, I've had people say they see my work like on the web and things, and then they see it in person, and they're like, "Oh my God, I have this saying: if you're going to use paint, use paint, use paint." And I'll physically take the tube of paint and draw with it on the canvas. I bypass the whole palette and put the paint right on the canvas because I want really thick, heavy paint. I come from
I love that.
being in Paris and seeing the Monets and the Impressionist work at the Orangerie and the Jeu de Paume and the in that area and the Orsay, of course, and I just love the texture. I know there's a huge piece in the uh, I can't think. I think it's in the Orangerie, maybe, I'm not sure, but it's very textural. And I don't even remember who did it, but it's a large piece. It looks like they just put paint on and took their fingers and moved it around, and it's beautiful. I had a show at the Haskell Museum at the airport, and I was sitting there looking at my work when I was coming back through from a flight, and a young man was there in the exhibit with his mother, and he got up real close, and he went to go like this, and his mother grabbed his hand, and I said, "You can touch it. You can touch it. It's my work." And he's like, "Wow, this is cool. It's really super textural." And I love that movement of paint and the surface. One of my things that I don't love is flat surfaces.
Right.
Not to say that I don't paint that way. I do. I absolutely do. I'm working on a copy right now of Botticelli's Birth of Venus for a client, which has taken me almost a year. I'm almost done, but it's very flat because the original is flat. That's not
Right.
something you paint with a lot of texture. So I can go both ways, but I certainly, in my paint, I love the texture. And I think because of the size of my work, it's more conducive to hanging in corporate environments. It's
Hmm.
rough to hang one of my pieces. They're generally quite large. I think my largest painting is 8 feet by 17 feet.
Oh my gosh.
So you have to have a pretty big house to put that in. So.
Actually, I'll be honest with you, Mary. I have a wall that big.
Do you? I do. Yeah, I do too. Right now it's Lee Fogel has it, and it's quite large, and I love that. I operate on the Hora vacui system in my house, which means basically fear of a vacuum. And it means you fill every spot. And I'm like, there's a little spot, I'll put a piece of art there, so that's kind of how
Absolutely.
I operate.
And I guess we can't call them small pieces, but your but your pieces that we were just talking about, they do have an extremely, you know, uh, large amount of depth. And just like you said, you told someone they could touch it. They could touch it. There is depth. There is an extremely, when I look at some of the paintings that I've seen online and on your website, they're absolutely gorgeous, and there is depth
Thank
to
you.
them. And one of the things I like about your work is the color selections. I am one of those guys that just likes a heck of a lot of bright color, and
Me
these
too.
really,
It's
and
joyful.
yeah, and your pieces really speak to me.
Thank you. Well,
They
I've
do.
got a new series that hopefully you will ask me about later that I'm working on a huge um, reveal of that whole series. There'll be 48 pieces, and they're extremely textural. And so I hope if it all works out, I'll be able to announce the show here in Jacksonville to announce that whole series. And you'll
Fan
like it because they're very textural.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let me ask you. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and step forward to not only your smaller art pieces. Like you said, they're pretty big, but they are. But let's talk about your murals. Your mural.
Bigger.
I know. Yeah, these are kind of like a little bigger, right?
A little bigger. Yeah. I just finished one at River City Science, and I think the total length, I'd really have to measure it, but I think it's right at between 300 and 320, 30 feet long and about 25 feet tall.
Damn.
And I would love to paint more in Jacksonville. It's tough to get a wall. It's tough to get on the list to get to paint things in Jacksonville. So I love doing it. I've got I'm really keen on painting some huge 1 to 2 story faces with maybe some big flowers or animals or something with it, and with bright colors. I can see them in my head, and I would really love to do that and brighten up Jacksonville, but I have to have a wall. I have to have that ability, which I would love, at some point.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I've been talking with people for a long time now, the last few years, and I understand the hurdles you have to go through to put a mural on somebody's wall. Of course, if it's a private property, you got to get the guy to pay for it. If it's a city-owned structure, well, then you got to go through another set of hurdles. I get that. I totally understand that. And I know that if it's on a private wall, it's going to cost the owner of the building a sizable amount of money. Understandably, I get that. Uh, and I would love to see more murals on the buildings downtown. If they're talking about revitalizing downtown, one part of that is art. Uh, and
Yes.
yeah, it really is. It really is. I know of several private owners that have paid to have murals put on their buildings, and
Good
a
for
lot
them.
of them are very nice. And like you mentioned before, sometimes it has come at the cost of hiring somebody from out of town. Except for maybe if we think about Jason Tetlak, of course, he done some murals over in Murray Hill, and
He's
so
a graphist,
yeah, he's done
so
some
he does
murals over there, and
graphics.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's done some good stuff. And then we have Brenda Cato. She did the sunflower mural over there in Murray Hill, which they're trying to salvage right now because a church bought the building and they're likely to paint
Oh,
over it. Yeah. So, but one thing I wanted to ask you as we get into the downstretch here, we were talking earlier about, and we mentioned it several times here, about bringing in outside artists to paint murals and so forth. And I think we'll remember, back with Keith Harding thing with that, with Southworth, he was painting those things, and there was trouble with that. Yeah. So,
yeah,
yeah. So, but we have people coming in here, and there's some beautiful. They really are some beautiful murals, but they happen to be from people that are internationally known and not from here. And the city seems to, and there are some groups that head up the decision-making process for doing this that seem to be hiring out-of-town artists rather than going local. And there are a bunch of local artists very capable of putting together some good murals
absolutely.
downtown, yourself included. And then we have Jen Vale. We got, other people that are comments.
Your audio cut out.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Tracy, your audio. I didn't hear the whole question. Your audio
Yeah.
cut out.
Yeah. Sorry. I was saying that there happens to be, a lot of people, coming from out of town to do these murals.
Yes.
And we have
Yeah,
a lot of fantastic local muralists that can do the job.
well, and it's very disheartening when you pay property taxes here. You support these businesses and
Yeah.
they go out of town. And it's interesting to me that, and people have a hard time putting me in a lane. They say, we don't know what lane you're in. What's your style? I said, well, I'm old. I've done this my whole life. I can paint anything. I really can. I don't, some artists, which is great, they have a style and you can tell their style, but I paint what the patron wants painted. If they want a certain thing painted, that's kind of the style I use and what I do. I told somebody, I told you earlier, and not, it won't be the same, but I'm copying Botticelli's Birth of Venus for a client. And, I joke, I said, I'm not comparing myself in any way, shape, or form. But if you want a rendition of the Mona Lisa on the side of your building, y'all paint that 3 stories high. Let's do it. I've been around forever. Part of my schooling was to copy masterworks, and you had to do a good job in Italy. You went to the Uffizi and copied masterworks. That was part of your assignment.
Sure.
So, when they pick somebody, if somebody basically will tell some of our local artists, what do you want painted? Let us paint. There's, and I would love to learn from people that are much better than I am. And there are many, but they don't seem to hire those, and they bring them in and there's no learning involved for the local people, for the local artists to attend, maybe to assist with these, we'll just call them better known artists. So I am, like I said, I'm a lifetime learner, and I would like to learn from people, not just to watch them come in, stay on their lift, and go home. And I think in a lot of regards, there are local people that can do the work. A lot. We have great sculptors here, wonderful sculptors. Why I had one very well-known sculptor that doesn't show work really in Jacksonville say, MJ, I found out a long time ago, Jacksonville just doesn't like what I serve for dinner. I go elsewhere to sell my work. And I find that very sad that we're not supporting from within first. And I attended some meetings of the Art Public Places, And I think the final count, and I could be wrong, but it was like 15% had to go to local artists. I said, that's too little. I want
That's
50%.
unacceptable.
I think it is too. I think it's unacceptable. And I will fight for the local artists till I can't fight anymore. I don't know what else to do, because I think it's so disrespectful the way some local artists are treated here.
Yeah.
I'm happy if somebody gives me the paint in a really good building, I'll go paint a mural for free if I have the time. But they won't even let me paint a mural on a building. And that's very disheartening. I'm like, well, what's wrong with what I've done? I win awards all over the world for my work, and you're gonna tell me I'm not good enough? Well, let's critique what you have paid to put up here, and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
So I know I don't know what else to say. I think we should absolutely promote from within first. If we do bring in people from out of town, I want there to be an instructional aspect of what they do if we're paying them. So I want to go there. I want to learn. I want to ask questions, because you know what? I might learn something that I can use to be better, which is all I want. I just want to be better at what I do. So.
Well, I totally agree. I totally agree. Hope McMath and I have talked about this at length, about how the art is being treated, in the North Florida region in particular, of course. So many very, very talented artists are going unnoticed, and there's really no need for it.
The area.
Yeah, and sometimes sometimes it has, actually sometimes it only has to do with the actual knowledge of how to market your art, which is something that there should be addressed too. There should be workshops available to local artists, to help them navigate, how to get their artwork placed in galleries, how to sell their artwork, how to sell. Now, I understand, and Hope has told me that there is still a really good market for original pieces within certain communities. And certain communities, I mean, by communities that have deep pockets, because original artworks, I think you'll agree with me that original artwork should not be cheap. Now, no, but an artist that wants to set up a business could easily set up a constant stream of income by selling prints.
Oh, sure. And I find it interesting that I applied to do a mural festival here, and was rejected from participation. But yet I'm doing a mural festival in Canada this summer, and one up in the Northeast. Yet I'm rejected over people that come in from. So I just
who's in charge? Who's in charge of that shit?
I'm not going to say. Believe me, I had words.
Well, I could. Well, first of all, this program has never been safe for work. I'm just telling you. It blows my mind how things seem to fall into place here in in Northeast Florida, Jacksonville, Duval County, what have you. Where they seem to discount the works of local artists, and not just muralists like yourself, and businesswomen, educators like yourself. There are several other, and there are several other very talented muralists, very talented artists that could come. Absolutely, that could commercialize on some of the stuff that they're producing.
There's you might know his name, and that it's escaping me. He's in St. Augustine. I found out recently there's an international mural painter living here, bought a studio here, that will not work in Jacksonville because of the attitudes. An international mural painter. I said, I want to meet him. I want to go to his
No
studio.
shit.
I have questions.
Oh, and you know what? It's probably it's probably not true, but it would be so ironic if he had a little studio. If he has a little studio over there at Cork.
No, this is somebody that bought a warehouse, and their son is working for them, and they did do one, and I'm not going to mention any names, but their son, I think, works for them, and they did one big mural downtown, which I love. I'm like, I don't know who that is. How come we don't applaud this? Why do we not in Jacksonville applaud our artists for accomplishments? But we don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I recently won in Florence. I won the Botticelli Award for Contemporary Art.
Yes, you did.
And I thought, here's the little redneck girl wins but nobody in Jacksonville will even talk to me about my art. Very
except
rare.
me.
A few.
Except me.
No, there's some very people that feel my angst. And I'm like, okay, that's okay.
Well,
it's all good.
I have connections downtown, and they have told me, and this has been made public knowledge, that the city of Jacksonville, Donna Deegan's new administration, has released some public grants directly payable to artists.
I did not know that. I wonder how you could send me information on how to apply.
I can do that.
I have a vision for a sculpture. I spoke out against LERP. I'm sorry. I'm one of those. And I have a vision.
I agree with
you. I'm like, I love cars. And I'm like, this chrome thing, how hot that's going to be in the summer. If anybody gets within, feet of that, they're going to get third-degree burns.
No shit.
Have you touched a chrome in the summer? I'm like, what? Are you kidding me?
No shit. I live out in the woods, and I got to tell you, I'm in North Florida. I'm in the woods, and I have a tractor that I have to ride almost every other day on my property. And I got to tell you, when the sun gets high noon, you can't even stand next to that tractor without getting a sunburn.
Right. Can you imagine a huge sculpture, and and who's going to polish it? But I need to find a good ear to bend about my sculptural idea for downtown Jacksonville. The people that I've told, I gave one of the art people goosebumps because it would be amazingly cool, and I want to get in Jacksonville to do it. So it will be a big community effort, and it would just be stunning, and I can do it for under $18 million or whatever it was.
Well, I tell you, Mary, I've looked at, a bunch of the different renderings, a bunch of the different drawings of the, Lenny's lawn. And sans the LERP statue, I think that's an enormous waste of money. Although a lot of people misunderstand that statue would not be paid for by tax dollars. It's private donations. But I still think it's people. Yeah, but I still think it's tacky as shit. They could do an awful lot. They could do an awful lot with that lawn over there. They really could. It doesn't have to be a total big old, currently, basically it's just a big old patch of grass, which by the way has to be replaced every year because they can't grow good sod out there.
Right. Well, it's all fill dirt. I think that's all fill.
It's always been fill dirt. I hated to see the landing go. Mayor Jake Garbold and I were really good friends, and he was part of the drive to build the landing. And I'll be honest with you, when the Jacksonville landing opened on opening day, I was playing in the band that opened.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a lot of fond memories of the Jacksonville Landing. I spent a lot of years playing there on weekends. We played for, oh God, the Gator Bowl games, the cheerleader conferences, the, Florida Georgia games. I mean, we were I was in a band at the time, and we were pretty much considered the Jacksonville Landing House Band. I know they had a lot of other bands, but we were there pretty steady for several years. And again, like I said, I have a lot of fond memories there. So I really, really hated to see it go. I really did. It was just poor management all the way around.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I find that true in Jacksonville at some point, but I can't be critical because I don't know that I could do any better. I'm an artist. I tell people I run a pencil and a paintbrush and a spray can periodically.
Artist, well, you know what? You sell yourself short because artists really rule the world. I'll tell you.
We should.
Uh,
We should.
I do believe that artists have they have their finger on the pulse of what the general population, the thinking population, uh,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, that's for another discussion. But uh, uh, artists really do make the world go around, whether it be by pen and paper, whether it be by oil on canvas, whether it be by, banging out the strings or beating on the drums. I think artists really do help us to, connect to our inner selves, connect to Mother Earth. I'm not a religious man, but I will tell you that music and culture and art have always been a major part of my life.
Well, you're a creative, and creatives are a different sort where I think we're made up a little bit differently. And, a creative will get along with a creative.
Well, actually, I think most people will just call me a grumpy old fart.
I don't think that's true. That's
I tell you what, Mary, you have been an absolute joy to have on the show today. I thank you I thank you so much for joining us. We will include in the descriptions and follow-ups all of your links and ways for people to get in touch with you. I want to encourage all our friends, fans, and followers here to like, share, and comment on this episode and all of our future episodes. And by the way, click on some of our past episodes as well. Mary, you got any final words for us?
No, just go work, be creative in whatever you do. Get out there and give it a shot. The only way you're going to people say, I don't know what to draw. I said, pick up a pencil and start moving it on the paper. There, you'll get inspiration. So just go do it. Try,
Absolutely. Absolutely. We love you, Mary, and thank you so much for what you do and your contributions thank you for your contributions to the artistic community in Northeast Florida and around the world.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Well, that's a wrap. Another fantastic episode of the podcast. You can find us on all the social media platforms, wherever you surf, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter X, Threads, wherever. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. And on our YouTube channel, don't forget to like, share, comment, and smash that subscribe button. If you're streaming audio for the podcast, you can find us wherever you get your favorite podcast programs. In the meantime, I like to tell everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time. Peace.